My name is Lila Jolly, and I'll be talking about the first coup of Pakistan. The first coup of Pakistan occurred in October of 1958. It was led by the commander of the Pakistani army, General Ayub Khan. This event changed how the country was run and still affects it today. In order to fully examine the coup, a little backstory must be given, however. After its creation in 1947, Pakistan was experimenting in its governance, and at this point did not have a democracy. There was a lack of institutionalism and economic cause among its citizens, and this halted unity. Because most of the people were of two major political parties, many of the citizens of Pakistan were pitted against each other. Pakistan was failing economically, educationally, and there was a large divide in the less educated and in the military. Naim Chandri explained, the powerful military and bureaucratic alliance further delayed the enactment of a constitution and changed 7 prime ministers within the first 11 years of independence by further discrediting the politicians before the people. Even though Pakistan was a new country, it quickly developed a professional military due to threats external and internal, according to Chandri. Because of the threat of its next-door neighbor India, the military was strengthened and became prominent. Due to the disparity between the rigidity of the military and the nature of the weak government, there was a large number of statements about how politicians were obsessed with power and didn't care for the common person. Many thought that the president would look better in uniform. Ayub Khan was of no exception. Khan was recorded writing in his journal explaining that political leadership was inept and unable to run the affairs of the country. General Ayub Khan was quick to note how the government was not helping its citizens as he thought they should, and was of the opinion that the military would do a better job of governance. Ayub Khan justified his assumption of power by citing the nation's need for stability and the necessity for the army to play a central role. He decided to put this into play. In the beginning of October, the president of Pakistan, Iskandar Mirza, and Ayub Khan discussed the future of the country with the utmost secrecy. No one was to know the topic of their conversation. After much debate, they decided to keep Mirza as a figurehead. He would remain president. However, Ayub Khan should take over as chief martial law administrator and would become in charge of the country. Thus, on October 7th, martial law was decreed over Pakistan. 11 days later, Khan completely overthrew Mirza and sent him into exile in England, and he took control over the country. Martial law, according to Google, is the temporary imposition of direct military control of normal civil function or is a suspension of civil law by a government, especially in response to a temporary and emergency where civil forces are overwhelmed or in occupied territory. In other words, the military overthrew the government. Due to the difference between its citizens, this act allowed the military to be seen as the savior of the state and connectivity between the people, according to Chandri. Furthermore, because of strict censorship, the citizens of Pakistan had no actual report of what was happening in their own country. From sale prices to post, everything was censored and controlled. There were strict punishments for deviations from martial law. However, the biggest change in how the country was run was the complete halt of political activity. Every political group or party was disbanded. Samuel E. Feiner states, a professional military is more prone to coups because the military draws a distinction between the nation and the government and begins to invent its own notions of national interest. Pakistan is one of the only countries where the military will continually step in when there is civil unrest. The first coup shaped the nature of civil-military relations in the country, which then shaped the future activities of the civilian leadership as well as embedded the military in local politics. This ascension of the military ingrained it deeply enough in the workings of Pakistan that 3 successful coups have occurred since 1958. The changes seen to the country after the first coup included many different laws and reforms, with one of the biggest accomplishments including the basic democracies. This gave Pakistan its first form of democracy, though it was not a true form of democracy. Ayub Khan used 2 main approaches into governing in his first few years. He concentrated on consolidating power and intimidating the opposition. He also aimed to establish the groundwork for future stability through altering economic, legal, and constitutional institutions. The first coup of Pakistan was swift, decisive, and changed the trajectory of the country. And here are my sources. Thanks for listening.